Let's see this computer. Okay. Say that one more time for the people who just missed it on YouTube. Who are you?
I'm Chelsea. I'm the newsletter editor.
And you really get at it, and I really appreciate it. And keep it up. Chris, when you're done reading, can you tell me who you are and why you're here?
I'm here because
You're supporting your bestie?
yeah, that.
Okay. Who do you work for?
I live in Mazer.
That's not what I asked.
I work for Bike Utah. Everybody knows me, I think.
Everybody does. I went to this event and everybody's like, yeah, dude, I know Chris. But they couldn't say your last name, which was really weird.
So exotic, yeah.
It's pretty exotic. Hey, Stan. Stan, get off mute and tell us who you are.
Okay, Stan Morris. I'm lead for BikeWalk Provo stories.
Which are excellent. And I'm looking forward to this month's. So cool. Hey, Han. Glad you showed up because you're the main event after Chris. Chris is going to go first because he's got some UDOT data that he wants to present. So who are you, Kehan?
Yeah, I am Kehan Shur with Provo Public Works Engineering Department, in charge of transportation-related materials and transportation-related projects.
Great. Glad you're here. Britton, you're next.
Howdy. I'm Britton. I am BikeWalk Provo's GIS specialist. So I'm in charge of the maps, and I help Clark with a bit of data stuff as well on the side. And then I'm also the designated parklet coordinator for when we do those fun little activities.
Do you have any parklets coming up? Because I had a ball last time.
Oh man, I'll keep you updated, but there's big plans in the works. Well, I just don't want to disclose them yet.
That's okay. That's okay. Do you remember the one we did last year? They've almost like made that now a parklet. Like, isn't there like a food truck there now?
It looks like it, yeah. They have a food truck next to
like
a good move.
A permanent parklet because of you. So kudos to you. Man. That's awesome.
We're making some big impacts, so it's all good.
Sweet dude. Hey, John Felt, you're next. Who are you? Where do you live?
I'm John Felt. I live in the Pleasant View neighborhood, and I am the Safe Routes to School lead coordinator person thing.
Are you coordinating with Chris on the bike buses, or is that two separate entities?
I don't know anything about that, so I'm gonna say no.
That's okay. Chris, we're gonna do an adult bike bus too, just to let you know.
I don't know what that means, but
you know what we're gonna go pick up adults who are not confident in riding on streets. Okay. And we're just gonna go around the city and ride with them and hold their hands.
I like that.
Cool. Carol, I see you making food or something. You're in the kitchen.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Carol Long. I'm the family biking advocate, and yeah.
Nice to have you here, Carol.
Thank you.
Wayne, you're next up. Look at that stack of books, Wayne. Have you read all those books?
All of these ones, no.
I bet Chris has read at least 3/4 of those books.
They're right here for anyone curious.
Let us know who you are. Who are you, Wayne?
So I'm Wayne Levitt. I live in the Joaquin neighborhood. I'm always trying to tune into what BikeWalk Pro is doing. Yeah, so
glad to have you here, man. Do you have a title by chance?
A title?
Have you formally been talked to by Kira?
A title within BikeWalk Provo?
Yeah.
No.
You don't have to do that.
You consistently hear enough for that to
fair enough.
Be encouraging.
Yep. Thanks, man. Glad to have you here. Dakota, you're next.
All right, I'm Dakota. I work for the Utah County Health Department, but I'm part of BikeWalk Provo's board. It's not nearly as exciting as some of the volunteer stuff. So as soon as my time's up, I'm thinking I'm changing positions.
Yeah, sounds good. I hear babies in the background too.
Yeah, man, I'm in their room. It's a mess, but yeah, we're naked getting ready for dinner. Apparently,
I'm there, man. I'm getting hungry too. I don't know who started this at 5, and it's totally fine, but I am getting hungry. I'm not going to lie. Glad to have you here. Olivia, you have not been here. I don't think I've seen you in the flesh. You and I work together, or more so, I'm just like not delegating as much as I should. I'll be completely honest. Like you and I, we need to have a chat. So tell us who you are. Tell us who you are.
Yeah. So I work at the Family History Library, and I usually have webinars at this exact time because of Roots Tech. I don't have one today, so that's why I'm here. But
Great.
I'm Olivia. I'm a sophomore at BYU. I help with social media.
Yes, you do, and you do a great job. And I'm gonna make you do more. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm just gonna dump so much stuff on you. Okay, anyways, I'm glad you're here.
Thanks.
Austin, you're next, friend. Austin Otter. I saw an otter today at the in the river today on the river trail, which is pretty dope. So he is not responding. That's okay. Hey, Richard West, what about you? You gonna respond?
Yeah, I'm here. Are we just doing introductions?
Yeah, we're just doing introductions. Let us know who you are.
West, been a member for a couple years. Wife and I and all my kids, we bike to school and work and everywhere. So happy to be here.
Are you in your closet right now? What is going on?
No, I'm leaning, I'm doing back stretches. So one of the healthiest things for your back is to cobra pose. And so I'm basically just cobra posing while I'm listening to the meeting. So
I love it. I love it. Cool. Logan, your next friend.
Let's see. There we go. Hey guys, I'm Logan Millsap. I'm down in Springville with the Hubble Creek Bicycle Association. And today I went with Carol and Jacob out to, and Annie, I don't know if she's here, but we went out to the new Provo River Delta restoration today. So that was fun.
It was pretty fun. Did you end up getting one of those plush suckers, those fish?
Oh, I did. We got the little June sucker toys.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Glad to have you here, Logan.
Thanks.
Jason Lane, my friend, tell us who you are.
Yes, Jason, obviously. Anything else you wanted to add? Want me to add to who I am?
What is your position? I actually don't even know your formal. Do you have a formal position with us?
No formal position as of yet.
Yeah, we'll talk to Kara about that.
Yeah. So I just hop in here and there, but just a citizen who walks and bikes around.
Okay, love it. Glad you're here. I'm gonna give you one more chance, Austin, and then I'm gonna boot you. I'm just kidding. Austin's not picking up. We're done with. Oh, James is connecting, so we're gonna wait for James to tell us who he is once he connects. James, are you there?
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you do?
I am a person who rides a bike to work sometimes, and also takes the train as of recent since I moved.
That's plenty good for me. Do you have a title with us?
Volunteer. I'm supposed to be part of the bike rec crew, but I've been busy with life things. But I should be free now to actually help out. So
we might do a demo for, I don't even know who I'm working with. Safe AF. They need some help with Rex, and I forget who's in charge of that. So maybe we'll do a little demo with them. So glad you guys are all here. I don't see anybody else, so we're going to go with introduction or with updates, with announcements. The first thing I've announced is Bike to Work Day is on May 4th, so put that in your calendar. And if you guys know of any businesses who might be interested, hit us up on Instagram and we will put their names down. Britton, where'd you go? I know you got an announcement with your small nonprofit grant. If you could explain what that is.
Yeah, how long would you like the explanation?
Dude, I want it so long because literally it's Chris. It was gonna be me, but everybody here knows about UVX, so I'm not gonna like talk about UVX. It was just the filler. So if you want to talk in detail, that would be great.
Fantastic. And then follow-up question. I have a sort of 2-minute video that kind of covers what GIS is. I was wondering if that is something that I could share as well.
Good. I'm gonna share you. Oh my gosh, who made me this? I don't even know how to share the damn thing. Excuse my French. Let's see, show captions. Somebody help me.
I think Britton just presses share screen at the bottom.
Oh yeah, do that. Press it. Let's see what happens.
Bam. Oh, I have a host disabled participant screen sharing.
No, you don't. This is gonna be a long.
What you have to do is show the participants. So,
okay, participants, got you.
and then
Okay, okay,
there's options you can click on the people.
okay. I'm there.
I think.
Olivia, stop laughing. Britain, let's see. More chat. Allow. I swear, I am not this, like, I know technology. I'm on technology all the time. Let's see. So Chelsea, if I go to the participants, I click on their name. What am I looking for that says allow them?
I could be leading you down the wrong hole.
You're leading me down it's Chelsea's fault. Let's see.
It doesn't, you can't hover over share screen and there's a little arrow and it allows you to.
So I thought I thought I was gonna have this issue at the beginning, and so I tested it. It's not showing up. That's the problem. So let me click on. Did Britton leave? Let me click on your name. Spotlight. I'm gonna make you host. How about that?
Oh,
there
I'm
you
honored.
go.
I'm gonna make you host. We're changing hosts. Okay.
Okay.
Your host.
So here's what I'll do.
Yeah, do it.
I will share this.
Look at you. This is a collaborative effort. Kudos, guys.
Fantastic. All right. You guys see my screen?
I do. Play it.
Fantastic. So to give some context, Esri is one of the main people you go to when you're wanting to talk about GIS stuff. GIS stuff just stands for Geographic Information Systems. It's kind of handling a lot of maps and data stuff. The reason why this is so cool, I feel like I should share it, is that BikeWalk Provo got selected as one of 150 nonprofits in the United States to get a grant to allow for us to start using GIS more efficiently amongst our volunteer base. And so a lot of that could include teaching people who are in the community about how to use GIS, and other things such as using the other tools and utilities that they come up with. Jason, did you have a question?
Yeah, so their software is extremely expensive. I guess what type of functionality do you have within their systems? It's something that I'm fairly familiar with, but yeah, I guess what kind of access are they granting?
That's a great question. So to give context of like how big this grant is, so Jason's right. A lot of these memberships can cost between $1,000 to $5,000 a year. And Esri is allowing us to have 5 organizational accounts to use amongst our nonprofit. And before you think that, yeah, it's only 5 accounts, but that can easily be kind of worked around by having general accounts like volunteer, BikeWalk Provo, so on and so forth. And so we can train a lot of the people to use those things. That, and I guess some other context for that as well is that the less expensive ArcGIS accounts have a lot more restrictions about what you can do. But these accounts that we're being given starting March 8th have a lot of restrictions removed, allowing people to do things like make story maps. They can use business analysts. They can do network analysis. All these things that a lot of people who work in government really care about in terms of experience and stuff, is going to be accessible to BikeWalk Provo volunteers. And so let me play this video for you guys to kind of give you a bigger idea about what the capabilities of GIS has for us as an organization.
Hey, Britton, is there sound?
Is it not showing up sound for you guys?
No.
Okay.
Just me? Is anybody else having issues?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't.
there's no sound.
No sound. Okay.
There's a way to change that, and I could look it up.
Pretty sure if you break or stop your share and then reshare, there's a check mark somewhere.
That's right.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. Share sound. There it is. Okay. How about now?
To navigate the path ahead, we've always relied on those who see things differently. They show us that the possible can be a matter of how you see it. Today, as change accelerates and complexity grows, now more than ever, we need those who can see what others can't to find our way forward. Over the years, many who see differently have shared with us how they see the future. Their vision continues to inspire us.
There is an urgent need to develop a science of cities.
I learned map making in the United States Navy to help peacemakers avoid battle in the first place.
We are creating a better connected and better informed citizenry.
Jobs are going to require higher levels of thinking and decision making. So GIS is important because it helps students to be lifelong learners.
This is polio, a devastating disease which we can wipe off the face of the earth. That shows the power of GIS to help us change the future.
I think the absolute cutting edge of map making has to do with mapping the brain. These are going to be some of the most intricate maps humans have ever built.
80% of the species on the planet are still unknown to science. So task number one, to try to save species, we're going to have to be doing a lot of mapping.
We emerged through our long path of evolution by using our brain. Using our brain, rivers that we've utterly polluted can be once again made to run clean and pure. Places that have been utterly destroyed can be given another chance.
If we just use the technologies, join together with our minds and our hearts, there will be a different world, one that will be happy that your grandchildren and mine will have on into the future.
Together, we have the power to choose the way forward. We have the power to see what others can't.
Okay, and so the end thought that I have for that is two things. So as a nonprofit organization focused on biking safety and active transportation, we might be thinking like, okay, but the only thing we literally need GIS for is to map out our roads and traffic accidents. I can't really think of anything else, which is a good point, that we might just be using it for the uses of like increasing our urban safety and safety for pedestrians and whatnot. But I think as a whole, being able to teach people any of these things, if you found any of those topics interesting about how GIS can be used, a lot of our community and other people who might be interested in learning about this stuff will also find that interesting. And I think just being able to teach people how to use these tools will better prepare our public to be able to apply those things into their own like jobs and be able to kind of increase that access to information. So I'll answer some questions. Jason, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess the most important thing is access to the servers so that we have access to layers. And so those layers are going to come with a lot of database information that we can overlap. I'm just wondering, where do we start with those layers, and who would be granting access to servers?
Great question. So it'll be coming from two different sources. The first one is from the state and local government as itself. As like out of the nonprofit area, I'm working as a GIS analyst for Eagle Mountain City, and so we as a city use a lot of public data that's shared through the state. Utah is really good about having open, accessible data, especially UTA and UDOT have really helpful resources on just sharing their data on a monthly basis. So we'll have the most up-to-date information like crash statistics and roads that are added, bike lanes and things like that. And then the other part of it is through our own efforts. Once we have access to a lot of GIS people, like using the technology and the data, we can kind of gather a lot more data and work with that for Provo and our nonprofit specifically. One example of that is a couple months ago, I made a public input map when Provo decided to switch from Link scooters over to Bird. And there was a need or a desire to kind of map out where Bird scooters are having some problems, where people are maybe like parking them in bad places, or people might witness like dangerous uses for it. And so BikeWalk Provo members could place on the map those things, which the only issue is that I could only let the BikeWalk Provo members use that because I specifically took the time to make that publicly accessible. Now, as an organization, we'll be able to work with each other and share information and work on projects all as one, which will be ultimately beneficial.
So as far as platform use, then, is that through their online resource, or would we have access to like ArcGIS Pro?
Yeah, so starting March 8th will be when we get the whole entire software, and that essentially allows us to have a ArcGIS online organization interface where anyone can access that information. And in addition to that, people will also be able to download ArcGIS Pro, which is something that was normally hidden behind a paywall, but we now have access to, which will be really nice to use for specific map projects and things like that. And then, did anyone else have any questions about the grant or GIS stuff in specific? And then, so I'm personally really excited about this. So I, as the designated like GIS mentor of BikeWalk Provo, as termed by like the grant initiative, I see this potentially being used, especially during the summertime, to give lessons to the public community about how to use GIS stuff in the future. But hopefully in the coming months, we can kind of advertise the news that we can offer like GIS lessons, preferably to people who are not in school, so that people who are older or don't normally have access to that kind of stuff will be the first people in line to do that. So yeah, hopefully that wasn't too much time taken.
No, thank you, Britton. I really appreciate it. It sounds like this is going to be a really valuable asset in the future. So we'll keep tabs on that and try to get that information out to our volunteers to see who might be interested, and we'll go from there.
For sure.
Kayhan, did you leave? You still here? There you are. So
yeah,
Kayhan, tell us what you're going to talk about today.
Okay, let's see. So I'm gonna go ahead, share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, so Provo City, what we did was, with the help of Utah State, there was this LTAP program where we hired Utah State to do a study of our right-of-ways. So those are going to be things like our roads, our sidewalks, and that study took, I don't know exactly the length of the study, but it was a couple year progress. So we finally have the report of that study. And basically what it is so Utah State, what they did was, so they studied all the roads, that being again the asphalt and the sidewalks in the city of Provo, and they looked at things like structural basically deformations or distress, and they categorized that from a category A being very good, meaning there's literally no distress or very minimal distress, to a category E, meaning that that road or sidewalk is pretty bad and there's extreme distress. And then also there was the environmental side of it, so the environmental distress, and kind of same thing. So they categorized it, giving a rating of A, very good, meaning that road or sidewalk has minimal to no distress from the environmental side of it, and then 5 being that sidewalk or road is pretty bad or in significant need of basically attention. And then, so what they did was, in this table 1, they took, again, both the environmental and the structural distresses, and they actually turned it into a RSL, so road service life. And what we could see here is that basically for a road with a rating A1, that's basically the best road possible, we get a service life of 20 years, meaning that that road or sidewalk, specifically road, will basically last 20 years. And then for a road of rating E5, for example, that road will not last not even a year. So they basically use those 2 criteria and turned it into a table to come up with an RSL number. So in the city of Provo, we have about 266 center line miles. Those are all the roads that we are aware of. So about 266 miles. There are some roads that are under construction that are not completely completed, if I may. So those are not counted. As we get them completed, we'll put them in our GIS, and then we can put those into our system where we can count those towards our basically roads that are completed. And Provo City has an RSL of 11.71. So that means if you take an average of all the roads in the Provo City, they have about 11.71 years of life left in them. So this figure, what this figure basically goes over, this kind of breaks down basically all the roads, again, giving an RSL of 1 to 20, 1 being very bad, meaning it has a service life of 1 year left in it, and 20 being that it's one of the best roads we have and it has a service life of 20 years. So we could see here that about 5% of our roads have that 1 to 2 years left in them, unless we really pay attention to them and take care of them. And if we don't, so about 5% of our roads are gonna go bad, they're not gonna be usable. And then about 21% of our roads are in really good condition where we don't need to do anything. They will last for about 9 to 20 years. So in here, we could see that. So Provo City, when it comes to the maintenance aspect of it, we have 3 different programs. There's our routine, which is crack seal and slurry. That's basically applying a black slurry, we call it crack seal, as applicable on the road, as means of a routine maintenance to keep that road basically intact and to increase its RSL. The second type of maintenance that we have is called preventative, and that's using a micro surfacing. Again, just basically applying a very minimal surface to the existing road, and basically that increases the RSL. And then the third being the rehab, which is mill and overlay. So depending on the type of the road and the depth of the asphalt that we have for that road, we'll take about inch and a half off the asphalt and we'll replace it with brand new, again, inch and a half of asphalt, and that will increase the RSL for that road. So for each of our maintenance type, we could see at the table 2, for the preventative maintenance, what it does is, so increases the life of that road for, well, we'll start with the routine one being the first one. So the routine maintenance will increase the life of that road for up to 3 years. And then you could see that close to that, the next basically a column, we can see that it has a benefit to cost ratio. So that gives us a benefit to cost ratio of 25, which is really good. And then the secondary type of maintenance being the preventative, we could see that that increases the road life for 5 years. Well, it's normally 4 to 6 years, but we'll go with 5 years as the median. And that gives us a benefit to cost ratio of 20. And that's a pretty good benefit to cost ratio. And then the third type of maintenance that we have is our rehab. That gives us an additional 8 years of service life with a benefit cost ratio of 4. And then the last being completely reconstructing that road from the get-go, or basically take the road bays, the sub bays, and the asphalt and just replace it with a brand new road. That gives us obviously a service life of 20 years. That's the maximum that we get out of a brand new road before touching it or before getting back to it. And then that gives us a benefit to cost ratio of 3.33. So when it comes to the cost, benefit to cost, we want to look for the best possible option, and that is we want to get to those roads as soon as possible, especially if we can take care of them by just doing a routine maintenance to it before it goes really bad, and we have to do a preventative, and then before it gets really even further worse, where we have to do a rehab. So we try to keep up with these roads as much as possible and kind of just apply, starting from, again, the routine being the best option to reconstruction being the worst option that we have to go through. Okay, so this might be something that I do have to zoom in further. And no matter how much I zoom, I'm pretty sure you guys would not be able to read the labels on this, but I'll leave it the way it is. So we created 2 maps, and this is just basically maps of the Provo City. For the year 2023, this is our coming construction season. We have basically categorized roads that we want to kind of pay attention to and apply some sort of maintenance towards these roads. So as you can see, we have some colorful roads here, each color representing a different type of maintenance that we're planning on applying towards these roads for the year construction 2023. You can see some green there. That's going to be our road rehab. And it kind of also gives us, we're looking for 2-inch mill and overlay, which basically means we'll take out the top surface 2-inch of the asphalt and we'll replace it with brand new 2-inch. And then we have some red color. Red is our 1.5-inch mill and overlay. So we'll take about 1.5 inches of the asphalt, replacing it with brand new. And then we have the purple, if I may, that's just the micro surfacing. And then the orangish being our preservation treatment. And that kind of gives us a ballpark of square yard of how many square yards are we looking for. And then there's one more map here, and this is the map for the year 2023 all the way to 2027. So for 5 years, we're looking for, again, year 2023 being blue. So all the blue ones are going to be the one that we will focus for this construction season. And then you can see purple being the next year, year 2024. And then from there on blue, and then green, and then the red for year 2027. These maps are not basically in absolute fixed maps, so things can change. And that's why we want to kind of make sure that residents are aware that these are subject to change depending on the projects that are going on in a specific area, the type of funding, the amount of funding, basically the weather conditions and things of that nature. So that was just a brief kind of update on our study results that we received. We're pretty excited. We now have a good understanding of what are the roads that we need to pay very close attention to. And then what are basically some of the places that we can kind of not worry about for a little bit before things get back. And so this gives us a good understanding of funding wise, how much funding do we need? And then how many of these roads do we need to basically add towards each year construction season? There's a lot of factors on that, like I mentioned, but we can use this to be able to tackle some of our problems that we might run into unless we have a very strategic planning towards them. So this is a really good information for us to use and be able to kind of keep an eye on our roads and all the maintenance that are needed for them. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way. Great presentation. So I was just curious on these maps. What does it mean, for instance, that some roads are not, are not listed? Does that just mean that they're in really good condition and so they're not part of this?
What are some of the roads that are not kind of highlighted? Is that what you're saying? Or
yeah, sorry, my dog decided to attack
you're fine.
Yeah, so like some of these roads that aren't really like listed, or does that just, they don't have colors, does that just mean they're in pretty good condition?
No, well, it could be. What that basically means is that we have not scheduled them within the 5-year time frame. So what it means is we don't need to kind of pay that much attention towards them for the next 5 years, if I could say it that way. But maybe, again, things could change. We believe that they might be really good for now, unless something really bad from underneath, like a water line breaks, a sewer line breaks, things of that nature, then we really have to get in there and kind of pay attention towards them. But for now, yeah, we do kind of like, we prioritize them based on the highest need going towards the lowest need. So for the 5 years, as you could see, these are some of the ones that we plan to do some work on, and we believe that we need to kind of pay attention towards them before they really go bad, because our goal is to kind of do that primarily maintenance rather than kind of getting into the secondary option and third option. We want to, again, use the best possible option with the least amount of money that we want to spend, and kind of use or gain as much life out of these roads as possible.
Thank you.
You bet. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, man. Great
Yeah.
presentation. Really educational. So if we don't have any other questions, I think Chris Wiltsey is eating some food.
I have a question real fast.
Oh, good.
When talking about the life of roads, one of the things that we mentioned a lot in this group or have in the past is the idea that bike traffic helps roads last longer, or rather, they don't wear on roads the same way. Can you address how you see bikes and the longevity they add to roads, perhaps?
That is true, but here's so there's two things here. A being bikes being used on the sidewalk, and then bikes being used on the roadways. If there are more bikes being used on the sidewalk, that could go against the life of the sidewalk. But if bikes are being used on the roadways, it is true that they do not wear and tear roads similar to as much as cars do. But the downside being that it only impacts about that 5 foot of bike lane. So if the roadway or the travel lane goes bad, it's not that we will just repair that travel lane. Most likely you will see that maintenance, unless it's a spot fix or paying attention to just a specific location. But for the most part, when we are coming back and doing rehab on that specific road, it's not that we'll just leave the bike lane and then we'll fix the travel lane. We'll kind of fix as much of it as possible, if that makes sense. So true that bike lane might be somewhat in decent condition, but you will see that bike lane is part of the road. If we're fixing it, we'll fix either half of the road full width, so the bike lane will be included in that maintenance.
Okay. Hey, there's a few other people that came in. Austin, are you there?
Hey, yeah, I am.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm Austin Taylor. I am a board member for BikeWalk Provo.
Great, thanks. And I think Callie, are you there as well?
Yeah, I'm here.
Who are you, Callie? I don't know if I've ever met you before.
I'm just a citizen in Provo, I guess. I just like biking and walking, so I like coming to these meetings.
That's awesome. Thanks for showing up, and thanks for telling us who you are. So, Kayhan, thanks again. Really appreciate the presentation, and you guys have really good questions. So, from there, Chris, sounds like you got something to present with UDOT. Is that what you're thinking?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't like planning on doing this, but I'll share something because I think it's kind of exciting or kind of useful.
Yeah, do it.
Let me pull this up. So this is like hot off the press, like as of this week. So this is the new design standards for the active transportation facilities that UDOT has. And so to give you some context, before this, they didn't really have any standards for things like protected bike lanes. And so they would do weird stuff like they did out in Saratoga Springs, where it's just like all that green paint. And it's like, it doesn't feel great.
Awful.
Sorry, I was just making notes of what pages to show you, but to give you some examples, if we go to page 12.
So do you know if these changes that have been implemented were outside pressure changes, or obviously is this just like UDOT slowly coming to their senses?
Yeah, I would definitely say groups like BikeWalk Provo and other like advocacy groups have influenced them. Because like, I'll give you an example. I won't name the advocacy group, but there was an advocacy group who had been like tweeting angry things at a certain engineering department in the state or city. And I remember I was in a meeting, we were standing at the spot, and the engineer was saying, we need to do something about this. They're being really annoying. And like, I think more or less he was like getting his feelings hurt. And so like, if you ever feel like you sort of speaking out and saying something is not doing anything, I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think it actually matters. You know, because people are like sensitive beings. If you're saying,
sure. They have an ego, right? Like,
yeah, and if you're saying that you don't like what they're doing, then
right.
Theoretically they'll think about it, unless they're like a sociopath, I guess.
Right.
So it's something to think about. But yeah, so I think this is the product of a lot of different things happening sort of nationally. There's some stuff happening like from the Federal Highway Administration that's moving in this direction, which then gives the go ahead to UDOT to feel more comfortable to do these kinds of things. There's also engineering groups like ITE that are slowly moving in this direction. So there's a lot of, I don't want to call it momentum, but movement in certain directions. So for example, on this page, it shows the different types of bicycle facilities that UDOT can now design. So before it would have just been like a buffered bike lane and a bike lane. Now they have physically protected and they have like a shared use path. So something like the Murdoch Canal versus something like the like Cougar Boulevard. And the value of that gives you more nuance in the types of designs. So you can do context sensitive designs relative to like vehicle speeds and vehicle volumes or the number of vehicles.
Can I say something real quick? So this is UDOT we're talking about.
This is UDOT, yeah.
So Kayhan, you still there? You know, oh, help me out. The road that's over by BYU, they're redoing that area. They were thinking of doing a pedestrian crossing bridge or something. Does this mean, Chris, that they're going to implement like a physical barrier? They could implement this now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's not like they're going to use this. It's still going to take like a certain level of advocacy.
Okay, that was my question, because it's like it's not default. It's you still have to press the put the pressure on them. Okay.
Yeah, but now it's actually something that is like out of the realm of experimental into actual standards that they can use.
Do you know how they like decide? Like if I go up to UDOT and I say this road in Provo is I think a good candidate, do they have a way of figuring out, you know, to use separated bike lanes to, you know, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So Region 3 is actually really good about that. Like I often go to Region 3 and I'll tell them about projects and they're really supportive. And like
for those who don't know who what Region 3 is, can you explain?
Oh, sorry. So that's the region we're in. So Utah County is in Region 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go to them and I'll give them projects and be like, hey, there's some interest in doing this. So usually how it happens is then they'll have sort of a technical meeting with the city and they'll present the idea to the city and see if the city is actually interested. So I don't know that you're going to run into like a ton of obstacles from Region 3.
Right.
It's more about will Provo City support these facilities within.
That's my next question, because I feel like typically when we have people from the city come on and explain, you know, what is happening in the city, I as a citizen sort of feel helpless, right? But we literally have like, you know, 15 people, 20 people on here. What can we do? Who can we go to? Is it our city council members? You mentioned going to Region 3. What is the best resource and best method to actually advocate for something like this?
No, I think they're going to have a meeting with Kahan.
Yeah.
He's the guy to talk to.
The guy to talk to. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. But I mean, like Kahan, he's not like the god of Provo. So he has people he answers to. So I think it's like it's an ecosystem, right? So like, don't beat up Kahan.
Yeah.
So just a little bit background on this. Yeah, so Canyon Road, at the intersection that you were talking about, that's the University Avenue and Canyon Road intersection. Initially, the plan was to build a ped bridge so that we can give an option for pedestrian, a safer option, if I may, because with the information that we received from BYU, they're expecting that the number of students that will be crossing University Avenue in the near future will double, triple. So just knowing that information, we wanted to kind of see what options can we basically come up with to be able to provide these students with a safer route.
Right.
Apart from the temporary measures that we took along the Canyon Road, which is we closed off the free ride flow. We closed that off. That decreased the distance that the pedestrians and bikers need to travel. But that's just a temporary measure. So what we did was on our side, from our end as a city, we applied for an SS4A, which is Safe Street for All grant, and we applied for a ped bridge. But unfortunately, that grant was declined. So the ped bridge is not something that we will have in any time near future, because like I said, that was the only source of funding that we were hoping that we would get to be able to accomplish something like that. It's a big project, pretty expensive project, so that's not a project anymore since we didn't get the funding for. With the UDOT stuff that's going on there, whenever there's a project between UDOT and Provo, in this case, BYU was also one of the main parties that kind of had a whole, well, they give their inputs for the parts that they needed to. They reach out to us, and there's always 2 to 3 neighborhood meetings that happen. They will create a story map. They will create a link where these residents can go. They can submit their feedback, and they can basically submit their questions and concerns. And if the neighbors, if the residents wants to, they can join one, 2, or 3 of those neighborhood meetings, and they can give their input that way as well. So we are way kind of past that stage already. We already know the plans. We already have the plans along the Canyon Road. What we have planned as of right now is it's a 8 feet a bike lane, if I may, or normal typical being 5 to 6 feet. But this one is an 8 feet. So that's a really good thing. And that was one of the things that we as a city, we pushed for. We wanted to get as wide of a bike lane as possible, just for the safety aspect of it.
If we wanted, sorry to interrupt about that. So if we wanted to do a physical protected barrier though, right? This is a UDOT road, correct me if I'm wrong. Right?
No. Canyon Road is a Provo City road.
Okay. So how do we advocate for a protected bike lane there? You know what I mean?
Right. So like I mentioned, when a project goes, basically, first of all, before them bidding it out or anything, that's when they create a story map and they advertise it that, hey, there's this project that we're planning to do here. And then they will have 2 to 3 neighborhood meetings, or more than that, depending on the type and size of the project. That's when everybody that wants to kind of give their input, by everybody, I mean on the resident side, we get involved with them a lot more than 2-3 times. That's when the residents, they can get involved. They can provide their feedback, their concerns, and their questions. That's basically the residents' way of reaching out to the UDOT or city and kind of sharing their need or concern, like I mentioned. But with this specific project, we're way past that phase. So we're way kind of, we have moved long ways from that. We have had several meetings on the concept plans and the final plans of where should basically each aspect of the transportation, what should be the width of the lane, the bike lane, the sidewalk. There will be, like I mentioned previously, there will be a signal that's going to go on the west side. I think it's the music building, if I'm not mistaken. It's the old Provo High School. So on that leg, you will have a signal as part of this project as well. So all those details have been already kind of taken care of.
Okay, so just to spit this back at you, it sounds to me like the planning phase is done and we sort of missed the ability to pitch for buffered bike lanes. Is that what I'm hearing?
So we do have the buffered bike lane.
Oh, sorry. I mean the protected, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So, yep.
So
You're
here's my next question. So I had no idea about this planning event, and I doubt anybody on this, or maybe people did know.
People did. I think
how do we, for future projects, for future areas, how do we know about these meetings? Like, where do we find that information out?
So if it's a Provo related project, which in this case this is,
yeah,
we do have our PI team, and if you go to our Provo website, on there, if you go to the basically if in this case this is a capital improvement project, excuse me, under our projects you could see that this is one of the projects, and it posts weekly to monthly updates along with links, surveys, the story map on that specific project. So there will be things of that nature basically posted on our website if it's if it's a project related to Provo City. If it's a UDOT related project, meaning Provo has nothing to do with it, then UDOT website will have something similar where you will have a specific link to that project where you can go give feedback, not only feedback, see the updates, and be able to submit questions and things like that.
And Kehan, where on the website is this information again?
It's our Provo City website.
Okay.
And so if you go to our Provo City website, I think I don't exactly remember, but I could find that. I could send you the link to that.
So hypothetically, had we been more aware as an organization to the changes that were happening on Canyon Road before the planning stage and finalization had happened, are you telling me that if we had enough voices coming at you telling you we want a protected bike lane, specifically protected bike lane, where are you at on confidence level that that could have happened? Like 100%, yeah, we could have gotten that done. 0%, like who's making the decision? Is it our city councilman? Chris, help me out here.
So here's the thing. I'll give you a little bit on the raised medians, and that's your protected, you may call them. There's the two different kinds that are used mainly is one, a continuous raised median, and then second being the gapped, where you have basically these concrete structures, but they have openings in between them every, I don't know, 5-6 feet or whatever, and you have that continuously along the bike lane, kind of separating the bike lane from the traffic lane. So there's those two different kinds, and both of these are the kinds that we in the transportation department, we don't feel comfortable with on having these in our roadways. And there's specific reasons behind them. A being, we really don't want our bikers to kind of not paying attention and hit these structures and then kind of fall onto the travel lane or fall onto the asphalt and head on, things like that nature. So those could be serious injuries on that. And there's several reasons behind putting a hard object on a roadway that we sometimes are okay with. In most cases, we're not okay with. So that's one main reason. Number two is the cost. What is the cost again to benefit kind of a ratio? Is this something absolutely needed? Or is this more like, oh, we think this could be something that might make things safer, but that might not be a justification for the cost that it would add to the project. And then also being that the schedule wise, how much would that drag the schedule or the overall schedule of the project? So there's a lot of factors that kind of go into that, and we kind of weigh on all of those factors before kind of making a specific decision. So just to answer pretty shortly to your question, that how much would this group their say would have kind of made difference here? It could have. What
would have been more? I mean, like how many people would you need to demonstrate that there would be a want for this or like a desire for this?
It's not the number of people. Is it needed here or not type of a thing, if I could say that. And we certainly didn't felt like this is something that we really needed to have on there. We don't have a specific, how should I say, there's no specific saying that raised medians could increase the safety by this much in Provo City roads. You see what I'm trying to say? We looked at them, we're like, okay, yeah, if there is a raised median that could provide some sort of a safety, but then on the other hand, like I mentioned to you, if these the bikers are not paying attention, they could actually, it could cause significant significant injury towards that biker as well. So there's always the pros and cons to it, and having just the buffered bike lane option, we haven't had a whole lot of kind of downside to that option being as one of the safety measures. So that works pretty well for this specific road, being Canyon Road. And just to provide it that extra safety, instead of having a 5 feet bike lane, our normal 5 to 6 is the typical width that we go, we actually increase that 2 extra feet. So now it's an 8 feet bike lane. And then just to make it a bit more safer, because we understand this road, the geometry of this road, it's not a pretty straightforward road. You have it curves in a way. So we added that 2 feet buffered zone to it. So we believe that should be a whole lot more than just having the medians, if I may.
Hey, Logan, thank you, Kayhan, for clarifying that. Logan, do you have your hand raised?
I was just going to add that this is part of why what Kayhan shared earlier in the meeting is super helpful, just because when we have kind of that longer range vision, that 5-year time scale, that it makes it easier for us to be part of the conversation, and to also just hear all the different, the engineering, the financing, the budget perspectives of everything that goes into these decisions. Sometimes it can feel like something happens and, oh shoot, I didn't know it was happening, and then we come in right at the end saying, oh, can we make these extreme changes? And we need to look at those over a scale of multiple years. So I really appreciate you sharing that document, those maps with us, Kayhan. And it's the kind of stuff we need to keep our eyes on, the longer horizon.
Great. Thanks, Logan. Kayhan, do you have anything else to add before sorry, we have to close. I just looked at the time. No,
I do not have anything else to add.
I appreciate you. Anybody else have anything they want to say before we leave?
Can I finish? Just show the rest of it really quick.
Yep.
I guess one thing to think about in terms of safety with these facilities, studies around the country have found that safety has increased anywhere from like 38 to 75%. So it's not insignificant. And that's why UDOT has been implementing these new designs. Last one I wanted to show you is they're now implementing or willing to at least implement protected intersections. So these are protected turns for bikes. I think one other thing to consider is some funding passed, I believe, for 5% of the transportation budget from UDOT to go towards active transportation. So that's ATIF, and that's going to be every year. So that's about over $50 million every year that cities can apply for. And that's in addition to the TIF active, which that's money that was already existing for the past, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And that's about 10 million. So we're talking $60 million for these high comfort, high safety types of facilities that I think it would make a lot of sense for there to be an expectation within Bike Utah that Provo is applying for these $60 million every year.
Thanks for clarifying that, Chris. That was, I'm so glad you did that. That was great, honestly. Before we leave, does anybody else have anything they want to share with what we've been talking about, or have any other questions for Kayhan or Chris?
Where can we watch the recording? This entire time I've been cleaning vomit.
Usually we put them on YouTube, and I've sort of been lacking, but I'll make sure to get it on there, okay?
Thanks.
Okay. We went over, I thought it was a really good meeting today with me at the helm. Just kidding. I'm just kidding, as a joke. So yeah, if there's
Were we planning next meeting being somewhere in person?
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention that. Thanks, Carol. So we've been looking for in-meeting before the pandemic. Apparently we used to meet in person. I didn't know that. So I've been reaching out to small businesses. There was the Pando Refitters who mentioned they might be interested in actually having us in their store, which might be sort of fun. I know Aaron mentioned something with the city, with their new office building, that we could do that as well. So I will keep everybody up to date well before that, so we can all like meet in person and maybe get some donuts or something, or pizza, and we'll go from there. So if there's nothing else, I bid you adieu. Thank you for everybody and your input. So y'all have a good night. Bye. Bye, sweetie. I'll see you tomorrow. Talking to you, Chris. You're my only sweetie. Okay, yeah, that's right. I'm gonna stop recording. Wait, don't leave.